What is happening, y'all? Happy Tuesday night. It is 9:32. I appreciate you guys coming in early. Welcome back to Johnny Gaz Live. Again, we're going live Tuesday nights, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Guess what day it is today, guys? I think you get it. If you're here, you know what's going on. It's roster cut down day. We are now talking the 53 initial man roster, and we're going to do it today with the villain. We got a lot to break down. Right now, we only got 50 players on this roster. We got to figure that out. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the quarterback situation. Talk about the defensive line. I don't think we kept enough defensive edges. What are we going to do about that? So we got a lot to hit on in hopefully an hour worth of time. But I appreciate you guys coming on board. You can hit me up on all of the socials, any social network. If you search at Johnny Gaz Sports, you can find daily Detroit Lions content. We got the 3-minute drills coming out just about each and every day. As we get closer and closer to the regular season, it will be more fun content. Hit that link down below to subscribe for the price of $0.00 per day. It is a great deal. I'd appreciate you getting on board. I appreciate all the subscribers, everybody getting involved in the chat early and often. Thank you guys so much. But let's get into it. We got a huge topic to get into today. We're going to go down this roster from top to bottom, and I can't do it alone. So let's bring on the guest of honor, as we always do on Tuesday nights at 9:30. Russell Wayne, the villain. How you doing, my man?
I am so jacked. There's no more preseason anything to talk about, and it's the real deal now. A couple more things that we got to get done. You know, I mean, tying up some loose ends, but it looks like this is what it is. Here we are.
You just made the list.
Perfect way to kick it off. I love it. So we're getting close now, right? I mean, now we're talking roster cut down, and we'll get into that. We got plenty of time for that. But what do you do to prep for the regular season? Do you have any rituals? You get your room ready in a specific way? Do you have to set up your TV in a particular way? Got anything in the works as we get closer to game one?
No, I mean, if I go watch the game somewhere, I watch it over with my boys over at the Lions Den, which is a very, very awesome group of misfit Lion fans that all shake their fists and cuss at the TV screen out in a kid-free area where we can drink a little bit and just have a lot of fun singing the fight song after every touchdown and field goals. It's a lot of fun. So that's what I do, is I get ready to go hang out with my boys over at the Lions Den. And Gary Loafman, if you're watching, God bless you, brother. I can't wait to come and watch some games with you.
Shout out, Gary. Love it. That sounds great, man. I can't wait. What a great time of year. We get closer into the fall. The weather's turning, the leaves, you can just kind of feel it. You can smell it in the air. Football is here. It's a good time of year. I'm excited, man. So let's not delay too much more. You know, I think the biggest story is now the 53-man roster. Well, what really is a 50-man roster. So let's start there before we dive and go position by position and talk about the big topics of the day. What do you make out of the Lions staying with 50 guys right now versus 53? I mean, I know there's some logical explanations to this, but what do you make out of their current standing?
Well, I mean, I think the logical explanations are the explanations. I think that they wanted to get some guys through on the roster so they could do certain injured reserve moves, which opened up a couple roster spots. But like guys that they want to get back with like the new rules, you only get a certain amount of people that you can do that with, to where you can put them on an injured reserve and actually get them back during the season. I think there's 8 spots for that. So they have to be really careful with how they do that. And that ties into some of the topics a little bit later. But yeah, they do have some extra roster spots. It's 50 out of 53. I do expect them to go and get a couple more awesome guys because of the guys that they cut, a couple surprises that were in there. So yeah, the Brad Holmes is doing his roster gymnastics that he does every year. I think that we will get Dan Skipper back because of that, because he's just a willing and able body on a veteran contract that can get released and not have to clear a waiver wire. He can come back and let the gymnastics happen afterwards, come back on the practice squad. And I believe that that is the play for one of the roster spots anyway. But I'll turn it back over to you. I know you got better framed questions to pull that other information out of me.
No, Marty, you like that? Good. It's so much to take out of this day. It's like, and you don't want to make too much out of the initial because, like you said, there's some moves that are yet to be made over the next 24, 48 hours. A lot of things will kind of take shape. I think there'll be some additions to this roster that may be expected, maybe one that isn't expected. But there's a lot that will happen. So let's just talk about where we're at right now. And I think, going back to yesterday, Monday at this point, we started to hear some of these cuts, some of the waivers that came through. Was there one that kind of hit you the hardest or one that you were surprised to hear maybe so early on in the week before we hit cut down deadline?
I would say Jackson Meeks, and I'm only saying it because, like, when I look back at it in retrospect, it's like, are they really going to keep 7 wide receivers? And then it just starts to kind of click, and you're like, okay, we have a deep room, and obviously a guy was going to be let go. So I'd say Jackson Meeks, and then obviously the Dan Skipper thing. But I swear they did this last year, where he got cut from the initial roster, and he was back on the practice squad. He's like Tom Kennedy. He'll never be unalived. You'll never be able to get rid of these guys. They're either going to be on the main roster or they'll be down on the practice squad, but they're still going to be working hard.
Yeah.
You just made the list.
Yeah, I was also surprised by the Meeks cut. Because the Lions have had the streak of the undrafted free agents, which actually ended now this year, to where an undrafted free agent did not make their initial 50 or 53-man roster. It was a good streak, and Meeks would have made that happen. And I thought he played well enough to earn himself a spot, but it's very clear they have a vision. They wanted to keep a certain number of wide receivers, which we'll talk about. So yeah, that one hit me hard. I think the Dan Skipper one did as well, but I agree with you. I think the plan for him is to bring him back. I don't know as far as the veteran status, how that works. Can he be offered a contract elsewhere? I mean, is it his call at that point, or is it a gentleman's agreement between the Lions and Skipper? So I was surprised they came out so early with that one. I'm hoping that they can work that out.
Well, let me throw something at you right here. This is just a little sidebar, but we talked about this at the beginning of training camp. But don't be surprised if Giovanni Manu is just kind of working his way in here and maybe even beat out Skipper for the job. And the other interesting part of it is Jamarco Jones was also kept on the main roster, so he made the roster. That's the other important piece.
Yeah.
If they were just planning on bringing Skipper back, would they have kept Jamarco Jones too? And how much of a developmental is Giovanni Manu developed into something that he can actually be used on game day, and he's not just on a practice squad anymore? So those are questions that may be answered, sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I appreciate everybody getting involved in the chat earlier. Trim, I see you. What up, Doe? Darcy, I see you. Chris Dredge, appreciate you. Jill, as always, you guys always involved in the chat. Jill actually asked, did they really cut Ahmed? So what that is an injury designation. And ideally, he's going to clear waivers because no team is going to want to add him to their 53-man roster with him having a pec injury that's basically not going to allow him to play this year. Now, you're taking a risk because I don't know, some crazy organization could do that, but it's very unlikely. So ideally, then the Lions will just bring him back and allow him to sit out his what will be his rookie season. So I think that's part of what Villain just described as some of Brad Holmes' roster magic, and that's one of those moves there. So yes, they are waiving him technically, but they will get him back. Thoughts on that at all, Villain? Does that scare you?
Not at all. I mean, I think you hit the nail right on the head right there. I mean, what type of team would claim him off of waivers to put him on the practice squad where he can't practice, and then maybe he might be able to play by week 12 when he wasn't, he was a 6th-round draft pick. It's not like he may mean a lot to us because we actually drafted a pass rusher and everybody was goo goo gaga. Yay, we did it. But I mean, and it's not that he wasn't bad or anything like that, but here's why I think that they did it is what I was talking about earlier is that they only have a certain amount of these injured reserve spots where these guys can come back. So do you want to use one of those on a guy that still needs development before he can even play? Or would you want to save that on a guy that, is maybe more of a veteran or an injury that could happen in the middle of the season where you could get him back? So I think that this play makes it, with the injury waiving, that if they put him on injured reserve at the beginning of the season, he has to miss the whole season.
Right.
Or you have to use the roster spot and then put him on an injured reserve that he could come back, right? But you don't want to use that spot. So instead, they waive him with an injury settlement. So, and maybe this is another handshake agreement. I think that it means a lot that we drafted him, and I think that he's loyal to us. So them waiving him with the injury settlement actually gives him a chance to come back and play this year without having to use one of those 8 injured reserve slots. That's my opinion.
I think you hit it on the head.
You like that?
I think you hit it on the head. Let's move on to one of the other big cuts from Monday, from the day before the deadline day, was the Hendon Hooker cut. And I think it's not really a surprise. I think we talked about this over and over again. The guy for me, didn't progress to the point where he was going to earn a backup role here. But I guess the question is, were the Lions right to just go ahead and waive him, to cut him and cut ties and allow him maybe a second chance elsewhere? Or do you think, Villain, that they would have been smarter to ride this out for another season and see what they could make out of it?
No, I think that this was a good move by Brad, and actually I'm going to applaud the move even more because I think it shows that he has GM maturity. And when it comes to, taking these players and then just being like, no, I'm the smartest guy. Oh, I'm going to develop all of these guys. All of my draft picks work, Johnny. They do. Every single one of them. I don't ever miss. I'm smarter than you. He didn't do that. He's like, yeah, I gave it a shot, him and Broderick. Cut the ties. So I think that shows maturity as a GM, that he's not tied to the draft pick. He's more tied to the person that actually worked really, really hard. So I think he should also be praised for bringing in Kyle Allen when everybody just kind of like, yeah, well, whatever. It's just Kyle Allen. He's just a camp body. That's what everybody said. And this dude actually came in, outworked, won the job. Like, even if Hendon Hooker played well, Kyle Allen won that job. I mean, he was outstanding minus that first Hall of Fame game. And he just looked good. He looked like he could run the offense. Nothing sexy about it. He knew how to go from read 1, read 2. We have playmakers. And if Kyle Allen has to come in, and I think that he'll do just fine distributing the football and getting it into the hands of playmakers. So Hooker couldn't do that. Hooker couldn't run the offense like that. Maybe he could go to a team like the Jets, where they have that kind of going on with Justin Fields, and they may be able to run that might work out better for him. But as far as a timing offense where you got to throw the ball to spaces and trust your receivers and read the defense and make checks, that's never going to be Hendon Hooker. I mean, I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's my quarterback.
Not my quarterback.
He's not our quarterback anymore. I wanted it to work out and not the ultimate workout as far as him taking, let's say, Goff's job. I didn't think that was ever a possibility, but I hope that his athleticism and some of the things that we saw at Tennessee would translate to the NFL. The problem with that is the things that he was doing at Tennessee were very simplified and tailored to his specific skill set, and it doesn't necessarily work in the NFL game. And I think the problem is that just didn't translate for him as far as being able to read coverages. And like you said, throw in a space and throw people open. That's not his game. So, and there were a lot of good quarterback coaches in this system to where if it was going to happen, it could have happened here, and it just didn't. So it seemed to me like it was just time, and the Lions would rather have an open roster spot than have to deal with that anymore. And like you said, and the bare bones of it, Kyle Allen was just playing better. So if we're talking about strictly a backup quarterback, he's in a better position than Hendon Hooker was. So nothing wrong with that. On the other side of this,
You just made the list. list.
He did. He's making the list. I don't know what list he's going to get on now. But on the other side of this, the Brad Holmes side of this, or people who are Brad Holmes detractors now can lean on the fact that, his 2 third-round draft picks in 2023 aren't even on the roster anymore. On top of the fact that the guy wouldn't pull the trigger this offseason to get them the defensive player that they need to take them over the edge. No pun intended. Do you think that this... Yeah, I know. I've got it going tonight. I don't know what it is. The energy drink's hitting hard. Do you think that argument now holds any weight? Is this just a blip on the radar as far as his draft strategy? Or are we looking at potentially a problem moving forward?
No, I mean, come on, man. Johnny, they only got 4 All-Pros out of that draft class.
Fair.
I mean, why didn't he get 7? Huh?
I need
why? The thing is, it's just overemphasized. I saw an article by A to Z Sports that was talking about how the TJ Hawkinson trade was a complete loss, and it's like, look, if you want to throw all your eggs into that basket and say, look, they couldn't get those 3rd-round picks and whatever, that's what if you take those 2 third-round picks away, right?
No. Now
look at his draft class. Like if you just look at the TJ Hawkinson blunder, and minus those 2 third-round draft picks, I mean, Brad Holmes has been outstanding. You're talking about getting all pros in every single draft class. I think what was it, in the top 100? Did we have like 8 players that were rated by the players? 8 players. There's 30. There's all these different teams. I mean, you're talking 32 teams, and we have 8 players in the top 100 or 7. That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, and people talk about sustainability. I don't know. You guys blew your shot. What do you mean we just blew our shot? We ain't even gotten here yet. We ain't even as good with our own guys yet, Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
Like that in 2 years, Brian Brance is going to reach his prime. like Jack Campbell's going to reach his prime in 2 years. Like, these guys aren't as good as they're going to be yet. Gibbs is going to reach his prime in 2 years. So they may win a Super Bowl or 2 on the way with these guys being good. So you got $47 million in cap. I want to keep my guys, Johnny. That's it. Let's keep these guys. Let's keep them around. And let's run it. Let's run it for however many seasons that we can with Penei Sewell and Amon-Ra St. Brown and and Sam Laporta. Let's keep the band together.
Well, let me throw a wrench in there because I want to keep my guys too. But one of the reasons that I believe they're sitting at 50 players instead of 53 right now is the opportunity to make a phone call to a veteran who we've talked about over and over and over again. And I'm sorry that I have to bring it up for probably the every single live we've had now. I'm going to do it again today, but it just makes sense that we're talking about the roster cut down. Does it make all the sense in the world now, Russell, that they are calling Big Z, that he is going to be on this roster before Green Bay?
I'm counting on it. But, I mean, this was like Nostradamus. If this comes true, it's going to be crazy. But right after the cut downs, after we figure out this roster configuration and they set this practice squad, I think they're going to re-sign Big Z. I think that's been in the cards.
Yeah.
I think they wanted to see all these, these young guys like Nate Lynn and Keith Cooper and Turner and Ukuwu. They wanted to look at all these guys during training camp, and Big Z wasn't wanting to be around training camp. And I could be wrong. Maybe they don't re-sign him, but that's what I think they've been waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's smart like that. And they even said that I read something that said that he's been, getting himself into the football type of shape, getting ready to do his season. So I think it's done. I think it'll get done by the end of the week. They'll have him on the roster so they can, get him ready to game plan for the Green Bay Packers.
I'm with you. I think it's happening. I more and more now. The way they've set this up just makes all the sense in the world. I think it is going to happen. I would bet alongside with you there. So I think that's a good thing. I think it's going to be good for the Lions defense. I mean that's easier said than done, but to me it just kind of rounds things into shape, and it kind of leans into where now I'd like to look at this roster in detail. Let's start on the defensive side, since we kind of opened it up with Hendon Hooker and some of that conversation. Let's start with the defensive ends, because they only kept right now 3 of them: Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport, and El-Kadin Muhammad. And we know they can shuffle some defensive tackles around, so there's some mix and match and versatility there. But they only kept 3 defensive ends. So again, does that also lend itself to believe that Big Z is joining that group of edges?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess you could argue Mekhi Wingo,
Right.
you know, he's one of those tweeners in between, but yeah, when you look at that, that's kind of what it looks like, doesn't it? Like, I mean, are you going in with only 3 defensive ends, or is the defensive alignment going to be played different this year? Are we running more linebackers, because we also kept 6 linebackers too? So are we gonna start doing the 4 linebacker look and 3 defensive linemen look? Because that could be a possibility too.
You called it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I mean, could it be? I mean, I'm not the one that's like a braggadocious guy. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you I told you so, but I think it's fun that it would play out like this, and using more speed, and it could also lend to one of my other predictions, which is I think that Derek Barnes is going to be the second in sacks on this team behind Aiden Hutchinson this year. There's my hot take.
I like that.
You like that?
I mean, you might be onto something, because if that's the case, let's say the plan isn't to bring Big Z in, and they're just happy with where they're at defensively, because they also have Josh Pascal that'll work back into the mix. We've talked about Ahmed Hassanin in the future. They did keep 6 defensive tackles: Reeder, Williams, Roy Lopez, Pat O'Connor, Mekhi Wingo, and maybe one of the bigger surprises for me was Chris Smith. Not that he doesn't earn a roster spot, but the fact that they didn't keep Nate Lynn, Mitchell Agude, Keith Cooper Jr. That was a name we talked about a lot, and none of those guys made the roster, but yet they kept Chris Smith. But my point is, they have 6 defensive tackles and 6 linebackers: Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, Grant Stewart, Trevor Nowaski, Zach Cunningham. So before I think we started any of our offseason conversations, had told me about your thoughts on maybe they shift what their fronts look like a little bit. Do you think then this leads itself to that sort of versatility on defense?
Yeah, I do, but I don't think that they are going to be, solid 3-4 or 4-3.
Right.
Or I just think that they want to be multiple. Like, I think that they want to call a 4-3 play and then find out Jack Campbell sees something different, and then be able to switch it on the fly, and then all of a sudden, instantaneously, Derek Barnes becomes a Jack linebacker rather than a Sam linebacker. Like, they instantaneously switch, and I think that they have that mentality to where they can be multiple. Oh, we need to get into a nickel right here. Okay, well, Brian Branch, you're now the slot corner, and we're gonna move. Like, they're gonna move all these guys into different spots. That's why you see Rock Ya-Sin playing safety, slot corner, and outside corner, because they want all of these guys to be versatile. So that way, when you see them come up to the line, you're not sure. Is Branch going to be the safety? Is he going to be the linebacker, or is he going to be the slot corner?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't know what roles they're going to be playing. So I think they can do that with the lineup and the guys that they have in both of those rooms.
I really like their linebacker room. I mean, when I look at the group of 6 guys here, I mean, we know at the top is Anzalone, Campbell, Barnes. I mean, this is before Malcolm Rodriguez gets back in the mix. Ezekiel Turner's on injured reserve, so they're going to keep him around as well. But, they had guys, depth pieces that made plays later on in the season when they had to rely on them. I mean, Nowaski is one of them. Zach Cunningham was another one. And I think the addition of Grant Stewart plays a huge piece to this because not necessarily in your starting linebacker room, but he's going to play a lot of special teams. We know what he's going to do now on kickoff returns. So, I mean, he's adding that extra layer. So I just think that room itself has so much versatility and a lot of uses with this Kelvin Shepherd defense. I'm excited.
I dig it, man. I think that Kelvin Shepherd is going to appear to be a better defensive coordinator than Aaron Glenn was, and it isn't necessarily because he's a better coordinator. I think he's coming in here at a really, really good time where a lot of the players are progressing and starting to find their place in the NFL all at the same time. They all grew up together, and I think that was part of the plan. They wanted to get this crop of guys and use those draft picks to where they would all grow up together. And that's a fun. It's really fun to look at. When you look at the both coordinators, you know, we changed both coordinators and everybody says, well, that's going to affect. And maybe it does. I think it does. It'll definitely pull things back a little bit. But I was talking about earlier this week on my show, on my morning show, that the progression of all of those different guys like Branch Campbell, you know, Kirby and Terrion and Hutchinson, all these guys elevating, the progression of those guys is going to be more than what you're going to lose with losing Frank Ragnow, losing losing the coordinators. These players are going to be better players than they were last year. And you're talking 7 guys that were in the top 100 players.
Yeah. And
they will be even better this year. I believe that.
Let's talk about the Lions secondary, because your topic just led me into something that really bugged me. It was the fact that Brian Branch did not make the top 100 players list. Is that insane? That's not right, Villain. Tell me I'm not crazy.
You're not crazy. Because I think that Kirby Joseph is the second best safety on the team, and Kirby Joseph was on that list, and I even think that he was ranked too low on that list. But no, I think Brian Branch is going to take a huge leap this year, or maybe not even take a huge leap. Maybe start getting the recognition. I mean, Kirby led the NFL in interceptions last year, so he's on the marquee. Yeah. But it's not like Brian Branch had a bad season or anything. I mean, it was almost, as a matter of fact, you might argue he had an even better season than Kirby did.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at the cornerback room. I thought they were a little light as far as the guys that they kept. I thought they were going to keep 6, potentially 7, depending on what they did with the wide receiver room. Obviously, they kept Terrion, DJ Reed, then Amik Robertson, Khalil Dorsey, and Avonte Maddox round out your cornerbacks. Your safety room only consists of 3, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, Rock Ya-Sin. Some names were left off of this, guys that made plays in the secondary in the preseason. Nick Whiteside was one of them. I mean, we talked about some others. Were there any surprises to you? Are you okay with the fact that they're keeping what looks to be a limited number of defensive backs?
Khalil Dorsey was huge to get back, but one thing all those guys have in common is like what we were talking about is, you know, DJ Reed, he can play inside, he can play outside.
Yeah.
Khalil Dorsey, he can play inside, outside. He's a special teams guy. Avonte Maddox, he plays safety, he plays slot, he play outside in a pinch. Brian Branch, he can play slot corner, and Kirby's pretty much just a safety. But Rock Ya-Sin, they had him all over. So I think the fact that all 8 of those guys are multiple and can play and back up multiple positions, you know, you can have next man up, considering you're only going to have 4 out of those 8 guys out there at any one time, probably. When you really look at it, you're not going to have more than 4 of those guys out there at a time,
right? Because
you got, you know, linebackers, just depending on whatever looks that you're in. So having 4-piece depth behind your linebacker, or not your linebackers, but 4-piece depth behind your cornerbacks and your safeties, because some of those guys can play safety too. Avonte Maddox was a safety, right?
Yes.
They said that he could play safety too, so he could be in either one of those rooms, right? So Rock Ya-Sin, you could easily just throw him right into the cornerback room if you want to. So I think that that's what they're thinking in there. And then you're going to be able to get either Strickland, a couple of those guys are going to slip through. You'll be able to stash a couple of those guys on the practice squad too. I think that's the plan.
You're right. Yeah, that was another one. Strickland.
You just made the list.
Ian Kennelly, that was another name. I was a little bit surprised. But yeah, you're right. Guys that could eventually come back through waivers. Let's jump back over to the offensive side. We spent enough time on Hendon Hooker, but let's focus on who's here with us. Jared Goff, Kyle Allen are the two quarterbacks right now. We know. Let me ask you this. Do you think they roll into the regular season with just the two quarterbacks, or do they claim somebody off of waivers, add them to the practice squad? Do you have any names? Or, again, do you think they're okay with just two?
No, I think they like Kyle Allen. I mean, don't you? I mean, like, if you just take your original thoughts out of there, right? When everyone's like, yeah, whatever, it's just Kyle Allen. And then just look at the body of work. And all you ask the guy to come in there, make accurate throws, be able to run the offense, be able to check in and out of different things. And he was able to do all of those things. He threw some incredibly accurate passes. Like, I don't care if your name's Patrick Mahomes or your name is Kyle Allen. If you throw an accurate pass is an accurate pass. Mm-hmm. And he threw some nice ones. That touchdown pass to Isaac Tesla, right in the money hall.
Beautiful. It
was beautiful. So why would you want to change? I mean, this guy's been there through the whole training camp, worked his ass off, earned the spot. It just doesn't seem like the Lions would be like, yeah, real nice work there, Kyle. You earned that backup spot. So we're bringing in, we're going to bring in Jameis Winston,
Oh, God.
I mean, come on.
I get you.
No, I think that's it. You got those two guys. There's our quarterback.
It's my quarterback.
And I'm confident with Kyle Allen. I am. I like him as the backup. And I think in any short-term stint, you're only asking for a guy to manage it. And that's certainly a guy that can manage the situation. So I'm not going to say that they're going to find better, but I do like the idea of the Lions having a developmental piece. I'm blanking on the name, but the Philadelphia Eagles just cut a young quarterback. I'll look it up once we're talking about something else to get a name for you. But a guy like that, and doesn't even have to be necessarily on the roster, but maybe as a practice squad guy, somebody who you just kind of can work with over time and develop him into a system quarterback that is sort of like a Kyle Allen. Again, I'm really projecting future stuff. It doesn't bother me now. I think the Lions are fine at quarterback. So let's move forward. The running back room, and I think it might be their strongest room as far as like pure depth and strength of talent. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, the two best in the league. Then you have Craig Reynolds and Sione Vaki. They ended up cutting all of the rest of the depth pieces there. I'll ask it like this. Do you think this is the strongest four running backs in all of football?
No doubt. There's no doubt. I mean, just on the top end, you get there. But, with Craig Reynolds he's just a guy that everybody likes. Like, just the way that he got into the league, waiver, going from practice squad, Jacksonville, Atlanta, all these different things, just the journey. Couldn't even find a place long enough to somebody get like a jersey from that place, and then he has a home here. He has a role, and he can back up both of those guys. I mean, he looked good in the preseason too. When he was out there, every carry that he had, he looked twitchy. Mm-hmm. He looks like he knows the offense real well. And then Sione Vaki, that you're talking about a guy that is a demon on special teams. He played safety, when he at Utah played, and then, in a pinch, he can do the running back roll well too and catch the ball out of the backfield. So yeah, as far 1, 2, 3, 4, there's nobody that's even close to the 1, 2, 3, 4. But top end, David Montgomery, Knuckles. And I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, I think is gonna hit some rare air this year. He's going to solidify himself as one of the best home run hitters if he's not already there. But right there with Barkley, some people are already putting him right there, but he's right there is one of the best in the league. So yeah, best running back room in the NFL. I say yes.
Yeah,
but I'm a homer.
Same. Same. But yeah, I agree with you. The Gibbs take is certainly not a hot take, and I really think this could be a next level type season for him. If some things kind of work together the right way, we could really be talking some good things for Jahmyr Gibbs. But either way, I think the Lions running back situation is in a good spot. Let's move on to the wide receivers. Another good situation for the Lions, but I would say exactly. I'd say another one though where I thought they would maybe keep one more guy, and we talked about Jackson Meeks to lead off this video, but they end up sitting with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Tim Patrick. Then it goes Khalif Raymond, Isaac Tesla, and Dominic Lovett. So they didn't keep any of the other guys in the rotation. Tom Kennedy's, the other guys that have been around. They went with the draft pick, which I think gives them some versatility in special teams. To me, that's probably what was the deciding factor. Did you see that any differently? Did you expect anything different in the wide receiver room for the initial 53?
Not really. For some reason in the back of my mind, I really thought that Jackson Meeks, they were going to keep 7 wide receivers just to protect him, but I get why they didn't keep 7. I mean, keeping 7 wide receivers is crazy. That's crazy to think about. But I love this room. I put a little post out today that was just talking about the dangers of Isaac Tesla, right?
Yeah.
You got the defenses are going to be selling out to try to stop Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery from running the ball down their throats every single game. And then you're going to have to try to keep a safety over there to try to make sure that Jameson Williams doesn't beat you long on a play action type of deal and score a touchdown on every play. You got to worry about that. And then you have the slot merchant where Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta are just going to be eating in the middle of the field all over the place. Any of the empty space, they'll find it right there. And then in the midst of all of the chaos, them trying to figure everything out, you're going to see 6'4" Isaac Tesla running down with a number 5 cornerback or a linebacker that just got left over, or maybe running wide open because they're going to have to use resources to stop everything else. And then you're going to get the Isaac Tesla and Tim Patrick are licking their chops to be that 5th option, 6th option in this passing game. It's going to be insane for those guys. So I'm excited to see what kind of low-level impact. I mean, I see Tesla having 30 catches, but for 600 yards, just big plays. He's just going to have somebody that he's going to make his bitch. Oh, wow, you're going to put a linebacker on me? Good luck with that. Or you're going to get this 5'8" cornerback.
Yeah,
because they're trying to cover everybody else, and he's just going to be licking his chops going, yeah, right. Buddy, yeah, right.
You're calling it. In Trim, you're saying the same thing. You can't cover them all. Let me get back in the chat. Millicent, thank you for being involved. Jill, Michelle, I see you guys. I appreciate you guys for getting involved early and often in the chat. Rip off those questions. We love answering questions and going back and forth with you guys. So if you got anything for us, let us know. We will hit them in the latter part of the live. But going back to what you said, Evil, and I think about what opposition defenses have to worry about in trying to defend the Lions. And that's what it's all about, is how do you find the right matchups in certain times to benefit? I mean, Tesla's going to get opportunities. Laporta is going to get opportunities. I think it's just going to be spread the wealth for Jared Goff. I think the only way you really get at this team, the Lions, is through their offensive line. So let's talk about that a little bit. Actually, before we do, the tight end room, they kept the same 3: Laporta, Brock Wright, Shane Zylstra. So for as much as they brought in these other guys and tried to play with an H-back and all this other things, they didn't go that route. Do you think there's anything to that, or they're just comfortable with the guys they had?
I mean, well, Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, you knew that was the 1-2. To me, the only question was Shane Zylstra.
Yeah,
I threw out the idea of them only keeping 2 tight ends, but Shane Zylstra's been here. He caught 3 touchdowns in one game. His blocking, they said, when talking to the people from the training camp, said that his blocking's gotten a lot better, and that was really the thing he needed to work on. So I think it's a solid tight end room. That's one of the better tight end rooms in in the NFC North and in the NFC, I would think.
So for defenses to get at Jared Goff, they're going to have to go through the Lions' revamped offensive line, starting with the tackle room, of course, the bread and butter with Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker. Then behind them, we talked about Dan Skipper. So the Lions end up keeping both Giovanni Manu and Jamarco Jones. And I think you're right in what you said earlier, is that probably the whole Skipper thing may go back to the fact that they drafted Manu and they really, really want him to work out. And he seemed to be taking some strides this preseason. So they got him on his rookie deal still. So it just makes sense that works out. And Jamarco Jones, I think they had a lot of faith in, just had some injury concerns to where he didn't get a lot of run. But I think they like him in that backup tackle role. So do you think they even need Dan Skipper when all's said and done?
Well, I mean, I think they could bring him back on the practice squad. But I think what you said right there, let that sink in, guys. Like, I don't think they kept Giovanni Manu just because he was a draft pick. I think they kept Giovanni, and not that like they would have cut him or anything like that, but over Dan Skipper, he beat out Dan Skipper. Jamarco Jones beat out Dan Skipper, and if Dan Skipper comes back, he may come back on the practice squad, but these two guys beat him out, and that's what you want. You have a guy that's been in Jamarco Jones, spent a couple years on the practice squad now. He's been through a couple training camps. Giovanni Manu has been through 2 training camps, and that's what you want. You want your depth pieces to be young pieces that you've been developing that know the system. I don't think they want to bring in a lot of guys off the street. That's why I think it is going to be Zadarius Smith that comes in, because he's been in these practices. You want people that are familiar, and that's what they got. I mean, you got Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker, and now you got your 2 developmental pieces right behind them, ready to go. And there you go. There's the tackle room.
Theodore says interior offensive line will be the key to our success. How long to gel? Well, let's look at the guys that they kept. The interior offensive line consists of Graham Glasgow, Christian Mahogany, Tate Ratledge, and then your depth pieces, Coyote Awasika, Kingsley Igakwen, and then in the reserve pup list is Miles Frazier. I think you got a good list there. I mean, that's the best 6 guys, I think, in the interior that they could come up with here in this offseason. And the question is, ultimately, how long does it take them to gel? Well, I think they were happy with what they saw out of the combination on the right side with Penei Sewell and Tate Ratledge. I think things are starting to gel there already. And as long as Graham Glasgow can hold up in the middle, which it seems like that's kind of the better of his positions right now, that's really the way to go. So me and Villain have talked about this. There's a potential here that if this is gelling the way I think it looks to be, they might be even better on the offensive line because they're younger on the 2 guard positions. They're getting the best out of Graham Glasgow that they can. No, he's not Frank Ragnow. I'm not saying that. He's not an all-pro center. But there's enough there surrounding that interior to where I'm not as concerned about it as I was when Ragnow initially retired. You feel the same way, Villain, and you see that any differently?
I do. I see it because let's look back at this right guard position, right? When you had Frank Ragnow in there and then you have Penei Sewell. Whoever's been playing right guard while that was going on, if you're playing next to Penei Sewell, it's no wonder Jonah Jackson had his best seasons playing next to Penei Sewell. That Kevin Zeitler came right in and was able to have a really, really good season next to Penei Sewell. And when Christian Mahogany was next to Penei Sewell with the 2 games that he played, wow, these guys are playing is good. You know, they're playing really well next to Penei Sewell. And I don't think it's going to be any different. And I think Tate Ratledge is better than Jonah Jackson, and I think that he's better than the version of Kevin Zeitler that we got last year. So I think he's going to fit right in. I think that is going to actually be an upgrade. We are going to upgrade by having Tate Ratledge at right guard. Over at left guard, you didn't have a good year out of Graham Glasgow. Now we're finding out that he did play through a really injury, pretty tough thing, but he didn't have a good season statistically on the left guard side. So for Christian Mahogany to go over on that side, it's not going to be hard to upgrade the left guard position because we didn't get good play out of it last year. Now you're going to move Glasgow to center on top of all that. That's going to be the downgrade. He's not going to be as good as Frank Ragnow, but I think that you can upgrade the other two positions. And overall, I think it will be upgraded, like you had said. But I think that's the way it kind of plays out. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah,
the way I painted that picture.
Marcus broke it down for us in the chat. He says we have 19 starters returning from a 15-win team. All we're missing is Carlton, Ragnow, Zeitler. Think about it. We're good, and I do like that. And again, those three guys, I think I don't like to go one-for-one replacements because I don't know if that's always the goal. But DJ Reed, to me, is a grittier player than Carlton Davis, if that makes a little bit of sense. To me, it's more of a Dan Campbell, today's defense type of move for them. We just talked about Ragnow. He hit on that. And Zeitler, I think we've done a good job in actually upgrading in our guard position. So I don't think that's a loss at all. So I'm with you, man. I think we're in a really good spot. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes had a quote this week that they believe they've built the best roster they have in the history here, even though they're short three players. Do you agree with that, Villain? Is this the best roster they've put together in their tenure with the Lions?
Well, they're coaching a team, so I mean, I could tell you no, but then I wouldn't be that. And I think that you are right. You're right, Marcus. Jonah did play left guard, and it was Glasgow was on the right side that year, and he was the one that had the career year. Thank you for correcting me on that. You are right. It's been a while, but you're right. He did play left guard there, and he played next to Decker and next to Decker.
The Athletic part of the New York Times had an article today that highlighted the Lions' edge as the glaring depth issue, while praising other positions, but saying that ultimately the edge is the position where there's the biggest hole or still a need there. Do you agree with that, Villain? Currently,
I guess, but I mean, I've already kind of painted the picture of why I think that isn't the case. I just think that they're changing the way that they're attacking, where I think that you are going to get more sack production out of your linebackers this year. And I mean, I could be wrong. They may just bring back Zadarius Smith, and then are you looking at? Let's look at that. You got Davenport, Muhammad, Zadarius Smith, Aiden Hutchinson. I think everybody would be fine with the room just by adding Zadarius Smith. So
yeah,
I'd say let the week play out before I would. But if they don't go get somebody, I think my theory is close. I think that we're going to attack with linebackers, and you're going to see. I think you're going to see that anyway. But go Derek Barnes, man. I wonder what the over-under is. I got to go find that on my DraftKings.
We should go. Yeah, we should check that. Millicent says, is it just me, or does our current roster stack up pretty well when compared to rosters of previous Super Bowl winning teams? So what I like to do, it's a great question. What I like to do sometimes is look at, it's always like, what have you done for me lately? Especially in the NFL, it's always a copycat league, and usually it's kind of like trendy. So to go back 10, 15 years, I think it's hard to compare. But when you look at, let's say, last year's Super Bowl winning roster with the Eagles, let's just pinpoint it. What do you think the Lions didn't have that the Eagles had that kind of led themselves to a Super Bowl? One, I think it's health, but two is interior defensive line pressure. To me, that's what ultimately won. That's just my opinion. What won the Eagles the day, on top of Saquon Barkley and some special play offensively. But so I think there's still some questions there. Can the Lions defensive line, the interior, compete to the point where they look like that Eagles team if we're doing a one-for-one comparison? Outside of that, I think the Lions have a more talented roster than the Eagles. So that's really the only question is, can they shore up the other side of the edge? And does Aleem McNeil come back and Tyleek Williams? Do they all make enough difference to where the interior of this defensive line is just overwhelming? And that's how I think they win a Super Bowl and compare. What do you think, Dylan?
Well, I mean, think about it. It's like if the Lions were just to get the players, right? Let's just say they had an offseason that just had them net the players that they're getting back on injury. We would be looking at this way differently. I mean, could you imagine that, like the Lions, okay, forget Aiden Hutchinson was even on the team because he wasn't on the team, or Aleem McNeil isn't going to be on there. No Derek Barnes. Like, could you imagine having a 15-win team, and then in the offseason, you bring in Derek Barnes, you bring in Aiden Hutchinson, you bring in Aleem McNeil. and like, and then you draft a defensive tackle in the first round, and you get DJ Reed as a cornerback because you didn't have Amik Robertson or Carlton Davis either, and then you bring in Amik Robertson. Now, imagine if you added all of that to a 15-win team, right? I mean, do you really think that the Lions would have lost to the Washington Commanders if they had Aiden Hutchinson and Aleem McNeil at full health? I don't think he would have been running all over the place like that. I think it would have been much different with those guys that were out there. Now, it completely changes your game plan. I mean, yeah, Goff had a bad day, but he was already down by 21 points. And when you're trying to score 14 points on every drive, you're taking more chances than you would normally take because you have to get back into the game. So Goff was out of his game element like that. If they had a better defense, then it would have been a much better, a different game. You couldn't convince me that the Commanders would have beaten the Lions even if it was just Aiden Hutchinson out there.
I would argue even if it was just Aleem McNeil. And I agree with you the other way as well. I think, to me, when Aleem McNeil was injured and left, that's when things really, really flipped on their head for the Lions, and they just couldn't keep up. But I agree with you. I think if they had both of those players, it's a whole different story. So we're gonna find out this year. Broski brings up a good point that I read a little bit today, that there might be some poaching going on from the Bears side of things, considering the Lions are cutting some players that, one, are talented, and two, are familiar with that kind of system. One of them being Dan Skipper, a swing tackle, somebody they can use in a weird, eligible situation. You know how Ben Johnson likes to run that weird offense. Do you think there's any credence to that, where the Bears make a shot for a guy like Dan Skipper?
Why wouldn't I? I mean, their team's trash, so it's like they need to do as much as they can do. I mean, you want to. Well, I mean, what do you get? We have a great roster. I mean, if you want to sign Dan Skipper and that's your make or break, that's fine. I love Dan Skipper. I mean, I love that touchdown catch that he had. But them getting rid, even if they don't go get Dan Skipper, I mean, doesn't that just show you where the roster is gone? Like that Dan Skipper can't make this team anymore.
It does.
He's a decent backup tackle, but it's not like, I mean, he's not like a Penei Sewell. He goes out there, he's a minus player every time that he does go out there, but it's not like he's such a minus player that he's going to embarrass you. He can get you through the game. You can win with Dan Skipper, but he's not a plus player. He's not going to add a ton of value to your team. I mean, I guess if Broski wants him as a tight end, you go out there and maybe catch a couple passes from Ben Johnson's offense. Maybe.
We're going to bite a kneecap off.
Well, I'll say this, when these initial 53 cuts happen, there's always a funny feeling. At least I've always gotten a funny feeling in the past. This year, I don't know if I have that, because it seems like with what we've talked about today, the one that keeps coming to mind is the Jackson Meeks thing. It's like that guy did play well enough to make a roster. But when you have a backload of Amon-Ra St. Brown and J-Mo and so on and so forth, and a guy can't crack the 53 because of that, that's a really great problem for our organization to have. And that's not only in the wide receiver room, it's across pretty much every position. We've never seen that in our history, truthfully, unless you are old enough to have lived through the 30s and 50s when the Lions dominated and were parading through the dirt streets of Trumbull and whatever. My point is, in our history, this is the best they've ever been. So it's difficult to see some of those guys walk away, guys that in the past we would hold on to and have these relationships with because we weren't as talented. We have maybe the two best combo tackles in the league, so you don't necessarily have to lean on your swing tackle, your 6 offensive linemen. So I look at this all as an extreme positive. I really believe if they can, I don't want to lean on the Big Z thing because I think they can make this happen without him. But if he does come on board, to me, they have the most complete roster that I've seen in my time covering the Lions. And defensively, I don't think they're getting enough credit for where they might be, considering they were really good through the first 4 weeks of the season last year and didn't get enough credit because the Hutchinson thing happened and then a string of bad luck. But they were really good. I mean, and sack rate, pressure rates. They had some issues in the back end, but I think that's all resolved. And I'm talking a lot here, buddy, but my point is I'm getting more and more excited as we get closer and closer to this week one. Let's stop right there. I think this has been a great session, buddy. Anything else you want to add in regards to the roster? Anything we might have missed today? Any other big topics we didn't touch on?
No, I mean, the practice squad is the next deal.
Yeah.
You know, you're trying to fill out the back end. You got 3 roster spots that are open, and are the Broski asked if the Lions are signing Zadarius Smith. I do believe that. I believe that since they got rid of him, since they got rid of that contract, that they would wait until training camp was over. So we will see. We will see if Russ's prediction, the 313 villain prediction after Zadarius Smith got cut, that he would sign after the last preseason game, if that comes true, Broski. We'll see if that comes true. And it sure looks like they're setting it up to be that way.
Well, tell all the good people where they could find you and your good work. What do you got? What are you working on currently? Do you got anything planned as we get closer to the regular season? Just tell them all about your good Lions content, brother.
Oh, we are. Yes, I'm with the 313 Villain Squad. You can connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X. That's at 313 Villain Squad. I'm doing that morning thing now. I'm back in the morning now. It'll be in full board. The Lion Villain Report in the mornings, starting next week for sure. I'm going to do it as many times as I can this week, but my son goes to school starting September 2nd, and that'll be when I can get back into it full time. I definitely want to do my own morning show here in the next couple of days when the practice squad gets done, so I will be hitting you up with that. And the other thing is the Fanatics. That's a affiliate marketing partner with us. And if you want to get all original gear, you're talking the real gear,
the good stuff.
The good stuff. Hit up that Lions pullover hoodie right there. Click that QR code. Save up 25% off of your order from our affiliate marketing partners right there.
Good man. Hey, I appreciate you, Russell. Well, we'll cut it there. We'll be back next week with some fun. Buddy, I'm just going to say a few kind words before we leave, but I appreciate you. I'll talk to you real soon, okay? Russell, he's a man. Go check out his pages. He gives me a great platform to post my material. It's been fun to talk with all the Lions fans out there in his world. So appreciate you, Russell. Thank you for everything. And again, thank you everybody who got involved in the chat today. I so much appreciate the involvement. We probably had more viewers today than we've ever had in the history of Johnny Gaz Live. So I appreciate it. It's all thanks to you guys. Again, that's why I do this, so I can talk Lions and just appreciate the great times we're having with our team. Like talking football in general, NFL. So it's been a lot of fun. I appreciate you, Trim, Marcus. I appreciate you very much for getting involved. Yeah, Marcus, we're going for an hour right now. I think as things progress, if we get into the season and this starts to take off, believe me, man, I will sit here and do this for multiple hours at a time. But I think right now it's sort of been the limit for what we've had in some of the preseason stuff. We don't want to overbore anybody with preseason talk. But now that the roster's out and things are really rolling, we're getting towards regular season, this will probably increase. So look for that in the future. But I appreciate the involvement in the chat. Again, everybody. Davey, how you doing, man? Trim, from top to bottom, buddy, I really appreciate you. You were involved the whole time, all over the chat. That means the world to me, buddy. Thank you. Michelle, Thomas, Julie, as always, you're always involved. Millicent with great questions. Jill, all over the chat and all over the content all the time. Again, I appreciate you guys. Next week, Tuesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, we will be back. We have one more week layover before the September 7th kickoff between Green Bay and the Detroit Lions. That's, I believe, a 4:25 afternoon kickoff that day. Depending on my schedule, I may go live for the game. That is if you are a Johnny Gaz Sports member on YouTube. Otherwise, I will have all of my free content leading up to that game, the game previews, all of the shorts you've come to love, the 3-minute drills, always, all the time, daily content for you through all of the socials, no matter where you go, YouTube, Facebook, X, whatever you call it now, Twitter. I don't know where you go, but if you type in at Johnny Gaz Sports, you're going to find some Detroit Lions content that is fun, concise, and to the point. I appreciate you guys. Everybody have a fantastic night. Be good to yourself and the ones around you. Take care of your mental health. That's so important, more important than anything else. And I want to make sure you come back and see me on future lives. Take it easy. Peace.